Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Balaji, the founder of Brave Young Heroes, and I am thrilled at the friend that I have brought along today to give us this masterclass. Let me tell you a little bit. Let me unpack this for you guys. This is a treat. She is a speaker, coach, podcast host, and she's the author of an amazing book, Happy Campers: 9 Summer Camp Secrets for Raising Kids Who Become Thriving Adults. This is something we all want. Something we all need. Miss Audrey Monke has been a camp counselor for 34 years. She's got a beautiful family with 5 thriving kids who've also been camp counselors. And she is so motivated to help us all raise happy, healthy, independent kids that I'm just excited. My kids go to camp and they're way more independent there than they are when they come back home. So Audrey, I need you to help me out. How can I turn these kids into thriving adults? Ladies, gents, please help me welcome the amazing Audrey Monke. Welcome, Audrey.
Wow, Balaji, I've never had such a great intro. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you today to chat about my book and just the great work that you're doing to help parents raise awesome kids.
This is amazing, and I love we're getting to see Audrey in her natural elements. That is actually Gold Arrow Camp in the background. It looks fun. I wish you guys would do a camp for adults, by the way, but that might be a separate conversation. But
definitely.
Yeah, camp is such a wonderful experience. I didn't attend these sort of sleepaway camps as a child. I grew up in Nigeria. They're not very prevalent there. But my 2 sons are going to camp pretty much every summer. So I think for a lot of families, camps have become a regular part of life. I'm interested, Audrey, how in the world did you get into camp counseling in the first place?
Well, I think like many people, I didn't plan on doing this for my job for my whole life. I knew I always had an interest in working with kids. I always liked kids, working with kids. And so I planned on being a teacher, and during college decided to spend a summer at a summer camp just to get more experience working with kids so that it would help with my eventual teaching career.
Right.
And what I found was that very first summer working at camp, that I really loved the kind of teaching that we do at camp, which is more life coaching. It's about just the skills of interpersonal relationships and working through just all of the relational and community things that are so important in life. And after spending one summer working at camp as a college student, I was just hooked. I loved the interaction with the kids. I loved the culture of camp and just the whole lifestyle, everything about it. As you can see, I'm a casual person, and during my college years in the 80s, I was actually at Stanford University, and most of my peers were very interested in getting into the corporate world. And so they'd be going off to their interviews in their pencil skirts and high heels and suits. And I just remember at the time thinking, gosh, I like working at camp. I don't want to be in a cubicle somewhere, and I love being outside. And so it was just sort of got planted right there that first summer. And then really the rest just kind of worked out. The timing was kind of uncanny that the founder of the camp where I worked, he had actually passed away. He was an elderly man, and his wife, who was also quite elderly, had been trying to sell the camp for all the years during college where I was working at camp. So I was actually able to buy this camp at a very young age, at age 22, and take over this business. And so but like I said, it was just kind of meant to be, because there's no way I would have planned this particular career, but I have loved it so much.
Wow, what an entry into a career that you already happened to love. That's remarkable. Now, Audrey, you got married and had kids a little while later after already being a camp counselor. But one thing that struck me in your story was that you were learning all these skills on the camp side, and then as a parent, you were doing your parenting thing, but the 2 worlds didn't necessarily overlap for a little bit.
That's correct. I think I have, among other parts of my personality, I'm a bit of a high achiever, and I like to do everything really well. And so with camp, I really went in thinking about all the ways that I wanted to just improve upon an already great culture and make sure that we were getting the outcomes that we wanted with the campers at camp.
Mm.
And then when I became a parent, I was sort of just doing sort of what other parents were doing at the time. And again, my oldest daughter was born in 1994. So it was kind of the start of the overparenting era or the helicopter parenting. In fact, the term I think was coined by Foster Cline in around 1990, but it became more prevalent later, that term. So I was sort of like many women trying to be really great at my job and really great in doing everything at home, and was pretty tired and overwhelmed by all of it. And so I had kind of an epiphany sort of in the early 2000s that I could really take the things that had worked so well at camp and bring them home and make life a lot more fun and connected at home too. So, and that was kind of where the book came from, is just my realizing that so many of the things that we do at camp, very simple practices that don't require a lot of time or special education, can really have a very positive impact on the development of kids. And so I really just wanted to share what I've learned both at camp and in my own family, and just hopefully help some other families find some more happiness and connection and joy in this crazy world we are raising our kids in.
Right. It's remarkable, Audrey, that, and we'll get a bit more into this in a bit, but when our kids go off to camp, like a camp like Gold Arrow Camp, and we put them in your care, sometimes it might be the very first time you're meeting these kids. And within a 1 week span, you are able to motivate these kids to follow instructions, to be social, to cooperate, to have compassion and empathy for smaller campers or maybe special needs campers or differently able campers. You do all that within the span of a week. And sometimes these are skills that us parents maybe are struggling to help the kids master at home. How is that possible?
Well, there's a couple of things, and one is something that I've talked with a lot of child development experts about. And that is the unfortunate truth that sometimes our kids listen to other adults a lot better than they listen to their parents. So there's a part of the secret of, and I talk about this in the book, is for some of the skills that we want our kids to have, it's sometimes good to get other people to help us with those. Other mentors, teachers, coaches. Sometimes those other adults who are pouring into our kids' lives actually can have a really positive impact in an area where maybe as parents, our kids are kind of tired of listening to us, or they're not as not as receptive. There's also something about at camp where you have these counselors who are just kind of a few years older than the kids. For kids, they look to those role models as being more relevant than the 50-year-old parent at home. So that's part of it, but not to despair, because a lot of the techniques we use actually can work for parents as well. And I wouldn't say, our sessions are 2 weeks, some camps are longer. And it really depends on the child, but definitely just the way the environment is set up for a lot more practice of social interaction. That is a huge key to why we get such a rapid change in kids. So, for example, when at home, families often struggle to get a few family dinners in a week. At camp, we have every day 3 meals sitting around a table together, plus a campfire. So when you think about that accelerated amount of time that we spend in discussion, in community, with adult guidance who are consciously thinking about this trajectory of skills they want the kids to learn. So the counselors are, a lot of times it's just casual discussion, but they have also the training and the intention of helping kids with specific character traits and skills. And they have all this time in which to do that work. So that's one of the secrets of camp, is we do not ever take a step back from that time. That's our most important time, is that time we spend together face
Mm,
to face.
mm.
And we get so much of it at camp, and that's what the kids love. They love that connection. They feel so happy because they have so much time with friends and time being listened to.
Wow, wow. You talked about kids' needs a little bit, and it strikes me, is this just perception or reality? Is there more of a need for camps, outdoor camps, sleepaway camps today than perhaps in previous generations?
Unfortunately, Balaji, yes, the need is great now because of a couple of things. One is, I think in previous generations, kids had a lot more time, just free time playing outside.
Yes,
That
yes,
was part of certainly my childhood. A lot of time without adult supervision,
yes.
outside with friends, exploring, playing, riding my bike. That was just part of childhood.
Hmm.
And that has changed so much, and it's not good for our kids. They need that outside, unstructured, just being with other kids more.
Mm.
I think a lot of the time kids spend outdoors now is just very structured, and usually with adults just really micromanaging. It's a
True.
drill in soccer or PE or something like that. And so that alone, that the need that kids have to be outside and to just have time to just play cards and get in an argument over a card game with friends. Honestly, it doesn't happen that much out in the world, but at camp, ample opportunity for kids to work through things, play together,
Wow.
build forts, all that kind of stuff that was just a given
Mm.
in decades of old. And then the other huge change, and of course parents are all seeing this, is just that there's now this iGen, this latest generation. They have never known a time where their parents were not on phones and they were not on devices. They're growing up in
Ouch.
a time when, yeah, they've grown up now where that's their reality, is this other world that's on a screen that is very
Yes,
appealing
yes.
and very hard to get ourselves away from.
Hmm.
And so for kids, a huge thing that the parents tell us, and the kids express it very well too, is that they really enjoy having a complete break from all technology.
What? Hang on. Let me have you say that one more time. These are the parents saying that or the kids, Audrey?
Both of them. I have interviews with 15-year-olds from camp expressing how much they are enjoying being off social media and away from their phones for a couple weeks. They're thankful for it, and they know that they can't do it on their own because when they're
Wow.
home, all their friends are on it. So it's not just as easy as a parent just say, well, we're not going to be plugged in this weekend
Yeah,
or
because we
something.
try that and there's always pushback.
There is, and there's also just that's where all their friends are. When kids are at camp, they are surrounded by friends, so they're not thinking about what's going on out there in the rest of the world. So it's a beautiful thing, but I will say that I have heard from kids that for some of them, this experience does show them how much closer relationships can be when they're more focused on face-to-face
Wow.
connections. And so it does change their social habit. These are
Wow.
kids who will go home and tell their friends, hey, let's put our phones away for a while and go do something else. And for sure, the staff who are college students who are also grown up in the same
That's
tech
yep,
saturated,
yep.
they definitely adjust their own habits as well. So I think just the experience of kind of the detox of a couple weeks can be very powerful for kids.
Mm. Audrey, parents are struggling so much with technology and trying to make sure they're equipping their kids to be prepared for life. But sometimes we're so tired, it all feels overwhelming. And I think it sounds like you maybe went through those sort of experiences before you had an epiphany and took a different approach to your parenting.
Well, part of my good fortune was that my three older kids preceded the way, like social media and that. So
Gotcha.
they were already well into high school or college before that stuff all took off. So it's really
Okay.
just been my younger two, both boys, who have been much more, I've needed to really figure out kind of the rules around the screens a lot more with them. And we did figure early on some of the things just in our family, and I talk about this in the book, is really you have to figure out what are your values going to be around technology.